Hey, what's up guys, Awesome Bomb here, and today I want to share my impressions on the Dishonored Game of the Year edition. So I bought this game recently for only 15 euros, I believe, and that is actually a really cheap price for like the Game of the Year edition. And yeah, I mean, I just like thought like this game was pretty good apparently, so I figured like why not just go ahead and buy it, like just give it a shot. And yeah, so I gave it a shot, and so anyway, let's just start off because I don't want to make this too long. I mean the XCOM impression video was way too long, so I want to make this a bit shorter than that, or at least I hope we'll be able to do it. Anyway, so Dishonored is uh, a stealth action adventure first person game. It has like it has kind of a shooter component, but also a more like close up and personal, like with the sword combat component. Like, so it's not really a shooter or like an RPG or something like that. It is like mainly stealth, but in a somewhat different way out, I suppose. I don't know, but whatever. So I played the game on medium difficulty, which is in the game veteran difficulty, I believe. I'm not really experienced with stealth games, but I figured that medium would be just about right, like not too easy, but also not too hard. So I figured like just go for medium, whatever. And yeah, I mean I'm not too. I don't think that was a bad choice or anything. But in the first few hours, I did have some problems because I didn't really know how to successfully get through the game without getting killed all the damn time. Because like in this game, you cannot really fight 5 enemies at a time that easily. Like instead, at least in the beginning of the game, like in the first few hours, you're not really able to do that. I mean, you basically just mostly have to do it in stealth or just run away whenever they spot you or anything like that. I mean, you cannot go in combat with 5 enemies at a time in the beginning of the game, which is obvious, of course. So anyway, I'm going to first share what I thought about the gameplay. After that, I'll share what I thought about the story, and at the end, I'll give the verdict, like the score I would give it. So, alright, so the gameplay. First, I want to start off what I liked about the gameplay. The first thing what I liked about the gameplay is that there's a really good sense of freedom in the game, and I repeat that with every single game. I want to have this like certain feeling of freedom that I can go wherever I want to. And Dishonored actually does have that kind of pretty good feeling. Although of course there are borders. I mean, you can't go wherever you want to. Mostly borders are like water or what's it called? Buildings, like high buildings you can't climb on. Although you can actually swim in water and go underwater and shit like that. You wouldn't like to go all too far. I mean, probably if you go too far, like into the water, there's probably going to be like some sort of invisible wall or something. I mean, I've never even tried it. Maybe I don't even know what happens if you go too far. But I suppose there's just like an invisible wall where you can't go through. So whatever. I mean, there's still a really good sense of freedom that you can go wherever you want to. But there's of course some borders, but that doesn't really mess up the feeling at all. So I like that about the gameplay. Next to that, this game has like moral choices sometimes through the entire game. Like those are really story choices. Like you have to make choices in the story every once in a while, and I kind of like that how they made that. Like you have the option to kill a certain person, or you can like just let him live, like leave a message to let him know that something that he should be careful, something like that. I mean, you're pretty much like ordered to kill somebody, but you can have the choice to either like let him live or make him disappear, but let him live, kind of like that, or just like kill him, just like you're ordered to do. But like, of course, every single moral choice has a consequence, and I'm not gonna spoil any of the consequences, but they're pretty fucking cool. Like, just like every single kill, yeah, pretty much every single kill in this game just matters. Like every time you kill somebody, it has a consequence. It doesn't even matter if it's like somebody you have to kill or don't have to kill, like the thing you're ordered to do. I mean, even if you just kill a random soldier or like a civilian, it has a consequence, and you'll see that like at the end of the game, because this game does have multiple endings. You'll see at the end of the game, like with every kill, you'll see what the consequence was. Well, okay, not of course not with every kill, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. Like, if you kill many people in the game, it's gonna have a certain consequence, a certain ending. And if you don't kill many enemies in the game, you're gonna have a different ending. And like, I like how they did that. Like, there's a reason to like play the game again. And that's I think that's really cool how they did that. But yeah. And of course, like, so in this game, you're like an assassin, right? Kind of like an assassin. First, in the beginning of the game, you are the guardian of a empress, but I'm not going to spoil anything. So, but later on, you'll turn into an assassin. Like, you're ordered to kill certain people and like shit like that. And this assassin, you have this like certain connection with a being. I'm gonna say being. That's called the outsider, I believe. Yeah, the outsider. This being shows itself as a person. So I'm not sure if this is in fact a person or not. It can kind of, yeah, I guess it's a person. I'm not sure. But this outsider is neither good nor bad. It's like a person who's just watching and like looking at everything, just observing, and he doesn't have a clear opinion on things you do, so he's like always just saying like, oh, you can go ahead and do that, or you can always just do that, like it's up to you. And when you do something, he's always going to be he's going to always say something in your favor, right? I mean, he's going to be like surprised that you did something, and like he doesn't say like stuff like you did something really bad, because he doesn't have an opinion, like he doesn't have a moral opinion. He doesn't say, oh, that was a really bad thing you did, or go, oh, you're a really good person for doing that. He doesn't say that kind of stuff. He is like really the neutral person who does not have an opinion, a real opinion, that is. So yeah, I actually really like this character, the outsider. I mean, this is a really, really interesting character, and it kind of, I don't know. I felt something with this guy. Whenever I saw him, when I saw him, I felt this kind of feeling inside me that he was really a special person. That he was not just some guy, some outsider person who was just like someone you're gonna forget in a moment. But he really sticks in your mind, and you're kind of like always when you see him, you always remember him for who he is and like what he is. Like it is an interesting character. I really like that guy. And yeah, of course, last but not least, the game obviously has some pretty impressive visuals. I mean, this game was made in 2012, and for a game that is made in 2012, this game really looks pretty good. I'm not sure how good it looks on a PC, but honestly, like for a console game, this is a really good game, a good-looking game, that is. But yeah, I mean, it's just a little side note thing that I liked about the gameplay. But yeah, of course, there are not only good things about the gameplay, there are also some bad things. And the first thing I have to mention is that this world you're in, when you're playing the game, honestly, like the world itself didn't really impress me. Although it does do a good job in telling you what makes this world what it is, you know. But the thing is, I'm just not interested in this world. It just doesn't seem realistic. I don't know. It just seems like some kind of world that would happen in a different dimension. If something happened in a different dimension, that world would have existed. I don't think this world really existed, of course, but I'm not sure. Hey, whatever. I mean, this world just doesn't seem right somehow. But yeah, whatever. So another thing I didn't really like, although this is an optional thing, in the game you'll find like lots and lots of fucking notes and books and stuff like that. Like you can just read that shit and like learn more about the world and like some of the characters as well. And honestly, like some of those fucking texts or books are beyond retarded. Like they're just so long to read. It's like an entire book. You have to fucking read through the entire book. And I almost like in the first few hours I actually did read most of those books. Like when they're not too long, I read them. But like at some point I was just like, well, this is just getting ridiculous. There's so many pages to fucking read, and I just didn't feel like wasting half of my playtime on reading the fucking books and notes. So I like barely like in the second half of the game I probably didn't even really read. Jesus, I didn't really read any of the notes or books. I mean, I just like pressed on them, and if I saw that they were short, I read them real quick, right? But if I saw that they were somewhat long or like extremely long, I just skipped right through them and didn't feel like reading them at all. I think this is just personal because of like the world, as I said. Like I didn't really find any interest in the world, so I didn't really feel like reading all of this stuff about the world. But yeah, I mean, this is just perhaps this is just something personal, but I honestly think these books, most of them are just filler. Like they're just there. They're just there to be there. They're just I don't know. I just didn't feel like reading most of those books. They're just too long for some reason. But yeah, whatever. So another thing, as I said, like about the powers thing, there are some really cool powers in the game, but there are some powers that are just like really fucking underpowered. Because I started off with in the game, I started off with the wrong powers. I mean, I just picked the wrong powers to upgrade, and that kind of made me weak in the beginning, and I really had a bad time at sometimes just getting through a certain part of the game because I kept dying and dying because I didn't know which power to like unlock and upgrade, because I honestly felt like the powers were just weak. But when I found out like what the good powers were, I started like unlocking those and upgrading those, and then I actually did feel really powerful. So it's just not a good thing that there's like these weak powers, and then there are these really kind of overpowered powers almost. I'm gonna say overpowered. I mean, they're really powerful for some reason, and others are just really weak, and it just doesn't feel balanced enough to have a oh shit have I don't know. It just doesn't feel balanced enough. But whatever. I mean, it's just just a little thing there. I mean, as soon as you get like the really good powers, as soon as you unlock them, that is, which you can pretty much do from the beginning of the game, if you do pick up the collectibles though. If you do like unlock the good powers in the beginning of the game, you're not gonna have a really tough time with enemies most of the time. But yeah, whatever. So enough about the gameplay. I want to real quick let you guys know what I thought about the story. So the story of the game is overall, like of the main game that is overall somewhat, I'm gonna say boring. The beginning is a really good beginning. Like it almost like immediately gives you a reason to play the game, right? And after the beginning, the story just kind of falls asleep. Like it just doesn't keep you interested at some point. Like at a certain point, you'll just be like, okay, so I'm just assassinating people left and right, and what am I doing here? Like what am I supposed to do now? It just like it doesn't give you motivation to keep going. Like the story isn't that strong. But in the end of the game, it does kind of make up, because of course there's multiple endings, as I said, and the endings are pretty satisfying. Like it's just cool, like to see how you influence the world you're in. And I honestly thought the ending was the highlight of the story. I mean, the beginning and the ending were pretty much the highlights for me. like in between those two, it was just kind of boring, and you just felt like you were just doing the same thing over and over, except like with different characters. But whatever. Uh, Talking about characters, uh, there's not really a good connection with most of the characters, apart from the daughter of the Empress, who you also have to protect as her like guardian. You do kind of you do kind of have a connection with her at some point. Like in the beginning of the game, at the very beginning, so this is not a big spoiler. You get the choice, like the daughter of the Empress comes to you, and all happiness, she recognizes you. She knows you're her guardian, and like she's all happy with that you came by, and she immediately asks you to play hide and seek with her. And this is an optional thing, so you can also say like, no, I don't want to play with you. I want to go to the Empress and protect her. But like I chose I wanted to play hide and seek with her just to see what happens, right? And it actually is kind of an introduction to how the stealth works in the game. So I actually recommend that you do that as well. Like just like play hide and seek with her, and you'll get the kind of an introduction to the stealth. And I like during that introduction, you also kind of get a connection with her already. I mean, you kind of like, if you like her, of course. I mean, perhaps you're not really a fan of like rich empresses or daughters of empresses like that, but if you do make a connection with her in that moment, there is a certain motivation in the first few hours to keep playing. I'm not going to say why. But yeah, I mean, other than her, like the daughter of the Empress, and also the Empress as well, I kind of do have a connection with the Empress because I have to protect her, right? But other than that, there's not really a big connection. But like, other than those two characters, I honestly didn't have a really good connection with anyone else. Like all the other characters just felt somewhat dull and boring, kind of like the world. It's just like the characters are kind of weird, and I didn't really trust them at all. Like they were just somewhat like that. I just couldn't trust them. I don't know what it was, but whatever. So, oh yeah, another thing I want to mention about the story is like there was this like somewhat predictable twist in the last few hours of the game. I'm not going to spoil what it was, but I actually saw that twist coming from a mile away. It's just like something you like. I'm going to say it like this, and I'm not going to spoil it. So if you have to play the game and you want to know what I'm talking about, there's a point in the game where you lose a lot of your characters. I'm not going to say how you lose them, but I think I should make it clear. Like, you lose your characters, most of them at least. And like, just that twist at that moment, I felt like it was very predictable. Like, I almost saw it coming from a mile away that was going to happen, or something similar to that. I mean, you could tell that there was something messed up going on. But yeah, whatever. It's just a little thing I just noticed and thought like sharing. But yeah, other than that, I don't think I have anything to share with the story-wise. Yeah, I forgot to mention, by the way, of course, the Game of the Year edition contains the main game and the DLC, like all of them. So there's also a DLC which follows a character that is also in the main game, but you don't get to play as that character until the DLC. And I honestly thought the character of the DLC was more interesting than the character of the main game, mostly because the character of the DLC actually talked every once in a while and shared his opinion on stuff, while the main character of the main game was just like always on a silent treatment and just like he never really talked to anybody. So I felt like I could have I felt like I had a better connection with the character in the DLC than with the character in the main game because of that reason. But yeah, I honestly also thought the DLC was actually really, really good compared to the main game. I mean, the main game just felt like uninteresting, but the DLC was actually quite fucking good. Like, honestly, the DLC was the highlight for this Game of the Year edition to me. Um, like, the story is a lot more powerful in the DLC, and like the world somehow manages to interest me more in the DLC, and I honestly feel like the main game is somewhat weak compared to that DLC. Though the main game is really good, I'm not gonna say it's bad. It could have been a lot better, and because of that reason, I'm gonna give the main game a score of 7 out of 10, which is not too high, but also not too low. I mean, it is a solid experience. The main game is a solid experience. It is not bad, but it could have been a lot better. And that is just something that bothers me a lot. DLC though, DLC is a really good piece of fucking game. Like, that DLC is absolutely amazing, and I give it a 9 out of 10, a solid 9 out of 10, because this DLC was absolutely amazing, and I fucking enjoy playing those DLCs, and I could in fact go back and play it once again, maybe sometime in the future, if I feel bored of other games, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah. Anyway, that was the impressions video for Dishonored, the Game of the Year edition. After this, I'll be sharing my impressions on Hotline Miami, which is an indie game. And yeah, other than that, I believe also Sly Cooper, I'm going to share my impressions in that game as well. And after that, I might actually consider taking a break. Not entirely from YouTube or anything. I'm just going to take a little break from these impressions videos, and I'm not going to do any gameplays either. I'm just going to take a break for a week or 2 or 3 or 5 or 79. I don't know. I mean, I just want to take a short break and just take a break from YouTube, and just like just have more time for games and like for school, because I really have I don't really have a lot of time nowadays. But the time I do have, I really want to spend on gaming mostly, and then like on school as well, of course. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any more questions, leave it in the comment section. I will answer them as soon as I can. And yeah, later, guys.